The people that were born into this new world need to have the words, need to have the understanding, the feeling that, yes, this is what I need to do. This is my mission. My mission is to greet Mashiach. My mission is to connect myself with the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach. That's why I'm here. And that's what I need to be doing. I need to be doing that because that's the thing. Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Greeting Moshiach. Today, it's just going to be me. So if you want to hear what I have to say, welcome. So I don't know if you know this already. My name is Levi Polichenco, and I'm one of the hosts of this podcast, Greeting Moshiach. And I just wanted to jump on here because we didn't release an episode this week. Baruch Hashem, we both have very busy lives. I mean, besides for this podcast, we all have our own shlichus and our own avodah. So I just wanted to take this moment to talk a little bit about the background behind what got us started with this podcast, what our motivations are, and just in general, talk about myself a little bit, about my personal relationship with the Sichos and with, in general, the topic of Mashiach. So I was raised in a very... My father's shliach, or no, we're shlichim. I was raised on shlichus, and on shlichus you have this general feeling of you're the Rebbe's soldier, and you're doing the Rebbe's work in the specific place that you are. And I was personally raised in Tijuana, Mexico, and we always had this. I was brought up with this idea that the Rebbe is Mashiach. We said Yechi when we went to Crown Heights a lot, and we had Yechi Amakas when we would go to Crown Heights, not when on shlichus. It was very, for me, it was very abstract. It was very, it was cultural, so to speak. It was something that was happening in the world. And even as I grew older and in Yeshiva, it was always something that was very conceptual. It was, that I was Mashiach, and I didn't know anything else. And, I didn't really have any conversations about it because in Yeshiva, you don't talk about it because it's something that you don't do in Yeshiva. We said Yechi because in Yeshiva, you're a little, what's the word? Because it's so taboo, and it's because it's like the dangerous thing, like, ooh. Saying you believe that I was Mashiach, and because the yeshiva and in general the staff, not all of them, but some of them weren't outspoken against it, but it was something that like you don't talk about. So it was because of that, it was a thing that we did as like to fight back against the establishment, so to speak. And in general, that's the teenager inclination, is to go against the status quo and the regular thing. So being Lubavitcher Bacher, that's what we did. We said Yechi, and it was very like, we even had in Adar, we put up it was a whole thing in Yeshiva to put up a sign. Well, we didn't put up a sign, it was just Yechi on the roof. Like complicated things. If you've ever been in Yeshiva or El Chabad, you know what I'm talking about. Anyways, so that was my general thing. And then as I got into Zal, I started learning the Sichos a little bit more. But even then, it was still very much makif. It was seviv. It was exterior things that was very chitzonius. It was very just, this is culturally, I'm identifying myself like this, and that was it. But I was always connected to this idea. Then I got to spend a year. It ended up not being a year, but I ended up spending time yeshiva in Crown Heights in the Rebbe's Shechana, in Chayvei Torah, and started Farbrengens and spending more time in 770. And I started hearing more about this idea and more about the Sichos and people speaking about it. So it started getting a little bit more real. Then I think it was after I got married, I believe. Um, I started taking the Sichos a little bit more seriously, and because I got married, once I got married, I got into a lot of. I was also a shliach, not a shliach, a rabbi for a little bit. But then I started getting into WhatsApp chats, and in a lot of these WhatsApp chats, there was a lot of discussions, uh, both positively and negatively, with regards to this topic about Mashiach and the Rebbe being Mashiach and all of those things. And I didn't have much argument yet at that stage, so a lot of it was very emotional. It was a lot of the questions and the claims were a little triggering, because like, if you don't have words, then there's no, it's true, intrinsically, it's true, but you can't express that feeling. You can't express the feeling of truth. You can't defend the truth that you believe, so you end up getting emotional. That's generally why people get emotionally triggered, because you're touching upon something that they can't speak. They don't have words to articulate it, and therefore they just get emotionally triggered, and they respond in very generally ad hominems and stuff like that. So Baruch Hashem, I started learning the Sichos, and I, 1 year I was like, I'm going to take it seriously, and I went through the Sichos, and every Sicha I learned, it was literally blowing my mind, the words that the Rebbe said. Like, it was just like, I thought this is what I thought before. This was my opinion. My opinion was, for the longest time, that Gimmel Tammuz happened, the chveis, whatever it is, whether you believe it or not. I was of the opinion that I was just like, not sure, I have no idea. So I'm just gonna go with, do the things of Gimmel Tammuz and also believe that I was not that. I don't know. It was very confusing. It didn't make any sense. But it was very much like, oh, we believe that the best candidate is the Rebbe. The Rebbe is the best thing to be Mashiach. It wasn't that the Rebbe was already chose or anything like that. It was just very, very simple. We say Yechi because the Rebbe told us to say Yechi, because whatever, it's the culture, it's the thing to do. That's how I grew up. We said Yechi, right? So you say Yechi, and the Rebbe being Mashiach is like, yes, we believe that Rebbe is Mashiach as Chassidim, right? That's the famous thing. The first thing that I'm going to tell you is that every single Chassid should believe that their Rebbe is Mashiach, and that was a lot of the thing. Was my argument was like, yeah, even like Satmar, like they think that they should think that their Rebbe is Mashiach. That was a lot of my thing. But then as I started learning the Sichos, it was like, no, the Parshas Vayera was last week. No, the Rebbe is literally telling us that Hashem already appeared to the person, to Mashiach, and gave him the shlichus of Shlach Nabiyat Tishlach, to take the Yidden out of Geulah. So therefore, once you already have that, then the Rebbe is no longer, the best candidate, or like the person that, like, my Mashiach, or the guy that I'm going to identify with Mashiach. It's the Mashiach. It's objective. It's a job description that already exists. Can't really, like every country has their leader. This is not like each kreisen, each group of Jews has their person that they believe is Mashiach. No, now already there's a person that has the general Mashiach's job and soul and all those things. Fine. So after learning the Sichos, or around the same time of learning the Sichos seriously, and really, really listening to what the Rebbe is saying, reading the words, not and without any preconceived notions. Obviously, you'll laugh at that, because I just finished telling you that I have these. I grew up with this with the chinuch of the Rebbe's Mashiach, and we say Yechi. So I obviously had some preconceived notions, but it was still with an open mind. And even till today, I still have an open mind to a certain extent, obviously, of if someone has an alternative way of understanding the Sichos, and specifically those parts of the Sichos where the Rebbe talks about the developments and all of those things. If they have an alternative way of explaining it where what I'm saying is wrong, I am more than happy to hear it and to discuss it. I'm not against it, obviously. In addition to learning the Sichos, there's a YouTube channel called Vabita Niflois, I think, and they were posting Farbrengens that happened in the year Nun Aleph Nun Beis. They were posting Farbrengens of Chassidim, not of the Rebbe, of Chassidim, and what they were talking about. And then in Gimmel and Daled also the Farbrengens of then. And I was watching them, and I'm listening to these mainstream shluchim, mashpiyim, rabbanim talking in words that like I'm identifying with, and I'm looking around at many of those same people nowadays, and many of the mainstream Chabad, Lubavitch, mashpiyim, and shluchim that are talking now, and I'm like what in the world happened? Okay, obviously we know what happened. Gimmel Tammuz happened, but yet it doesn't. You have to agree that before Gimmel Tammuz, this is what we thought. This was the understanding of a lot of people at that time reading the Sichos. So the argument is basically that if I understand the Sichos in the same way that people at that time understood the Sichos, then why am I wrong? You have to show me why I'm wrong. Besides, you can't tell me that Gimmel Tammuz changed anything, because then why did it only change this? Why didn't it change everything else? But we're not going to get to that. Anyway, so I started seeing Farbrengens of people talking. And in addition to that, also just looking at videos of Nun Gimel, I didn't really, I had the same feeling that a lot of people have of like, the Rebbe's not 100% feeling well. The Rebbe is clearly sick. The Rebbe, there's a difference between the Rebbe, a video of the Rebbe in Tafshin and Gimel, and a video of the Rebbe in Tafshin Mem Daled. Even in Beis, you see a clear difference. Obviously, there's something physically, there's a physical difference between those two videos, and it makes you uncomfortable. And so I didn't watch a lot of Nun Gimel videos. I thought when I would go to 770 for Yod Shvat and Mitzvah Shabbos, they had the video of Nun Gimel, of the Rebbe being Ma'idid Yechi, of the Rebbe encouraging Yechi. And whenever I would watch it, it would be very hard to watch. But then, after watching all of these people fabricating about this, and then I started watching the videos, I was like, okay, let me just watch the video. And it wasn't just one video. It was every single day for over a year. Not every single day, but and many times twice a day, the Rebbe would come out onto the porch and encourage Yechi. The singing, the words Yechi Adonenu Merinu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach Le'olam Va'ad. Those words, those 8 words, the Rebbe would encourage the singing of that niggin with those words. And again, it blew my mind, because I was like, okay, again, in the beginning, it was all very abstract. It was all very chitzonic. It was all very cultural. Like, oh, this is what we're doing. And in yeshiva, like I said, it was a little, to fight against the status quo and the what's it called, the leadership and whatever it is. But then I saw that, like, what do you mean? Like, why are you against it? Like, the Rebbe's over here. The Rebbe's coming out every single day, and Pasha, you see sometimes the Rebbe's in pain. But like, this is what the Rebbe's doing. The Rebbe's doing one thing, and that's coming out to the Chassidim to say Yechi. In addition to that, also, I read David Nachshin's story that he put out about his Piskei Dinim. So this is another thing. Okay, so you have the Rebbe's words, you have the Rebbe's Sichos. Fine. If that's not enough, you have the interpretations of Chassidim and Mashpiyim during that time where the Rebbe is saying these Sichos. Fine. You don't like their interpretations at that time, you disagree with them, fine. Then you have the Rebbe coming out and saying Yechi. I mean, not saying Yechi, encouraging Yechi. Fine. That's not enough. You have Rabbonim that got together and they signed Piskei Din, and they signed a Psak Din, they signed a halachic ruling that not only is the Rebbe Mashiach, but also he gives Mangolas, and the time of the redemption has arrived, and all these things. And not only have they signed this, but the Rebbe responded positively. The Rebbe accepted it with positive responses, asking for more signatures, and more Piskei Din, and more Rabbanim to sign on this Psak. It's like, whoa, that's crazy. And I think the thing that like really blew me over the top, where it was like, okay, I know I'm 100% right, was the video of Tafshin Nun Aleph, where when the Rebbe gave out the D'var Malchus, the Rebbe, and this is after the story Shabbos. Okay, Shabbos Parshas Tazria Mitzayra, which was I think either the Shabbos after or two Shabbosim after Chav Ches Nisan Tavshin and Aleph. When the Rebbe said the Sicha of Tutas Kent, that everything that I've done is Lehev of Alarik, and now I'm giving it over to you to finally bring him Mashiach. Then you have David Nachshon getting his psak din with 3 Rabbanim. They give it to the Rebbe. The Rebbe was very positive responses. They established Mata Mashiach. And then Shabbos by Farbrengens, David Nachshon gave the minhag was to, before Shabbos, give bottles to the secretaries for the next day Farbrengens. The Rebbe would give out those bottles, and each bottle would be with a hachraza, would be with a certain announcement that this bottle is for this Farbrengens, this bottle is for this organization, whatever it was. And David Nachshon gave his bottle for the Mata Mashiach, and I think for the Psak Din, if I'm not mistaken, you can go back. You can look it up, the facts behind the Psak, Psak Din, by David Nachshon. And he says over there that the secretary said, don't bet on it. Not necessarily are you going to get, is the Rebbe going to talk about your bottle, and not only necessarily are you going to get it, but you gave it in, and that's as best you can get. Fine. So he came back, and obviously came back was by the Farbrengens. And when the time came for the announcements for the Rebbe says we're going to have an announcement that is going to, I forgot exactly the lashon, but the gist is that it's going to affect the entire Seder Stalshalos. And David Nachshon went up, and the Rebbe poured him l'chaim. That was the minhag. The Rebbe would pour l'chaim. The Rebbe poured him and I forgot his name, his friend, his chavrusa. The Rebbe poured them l'chaim, and David Nachshon started saying he's saying the hachraza. What is this bottle for? I forgot exactly the thing, but at the end he finishes off with saying Yechi Adineinu Merinu V'Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach Lo'olam Va'ad. The first time he said it, not that many people responded. The second time he said it, a little bit more responded, and the third time he said it, there was a bigger response by pretty much the entire all the chassidim that were by the Farbrengens, and later on in the Farbrengens, even a few chassidim got up and said Baruch Shechayanu v'Kiyamanu v'Giyanu Zman Hazeh, because that's what you say when Mashiach comes. One of the many brachas that you say, and he says David Nachshon is telling this over, and he's saying that the entire time his eyes were closed, and after a chassid told him, like, the smile that was on the Rebbe's face is like. Anyways, so after reading that, and then Sunday morning, Motzei Shabbos, they sang Yechi again in front of the Rebbe. Anyways, the Rebbe was encouraging it, and then there was rumors, and the Rebbe stopped. But the point is that all of these things together, we had an episode previously about everything that was going on around that time of Tavshin and Aleph, Tavshin and Beis, Tavshin and Gimmel, Tavshin and Daled. It's very easy to look back in history and to make assumptions and all these things about what happened then. But when you take things in context of what's going on in history, what happened at that time, things that happen just get stronger. They just get more amazing. I forgot exactly what it was, but there was another instance where the Rebbe, there was something that the Rebbe said in his Sicha, and then there's a whole story surrounding that Farbrengens, and it just explode. It just made whatever the Rebbe said in that Sicha just explode, because it was like, it makes so much sense. The relevance makes so much sense. I think it was when the Rebbe says in Mishpatim Nun Beis, in Tavshin Nun Beis, the Rebbe says in Mishpatim that we still have not yet gotten the Hira'ah to build the Beis HaMikdash. This is what the Rebbe says in Parashat Pradma at the end of the Farbrengens. And I believe it was around the Chaf Beishvat, the Kinos HaShlichus, and there were a few women that, they heard everything that was going on, and the Rebbe is accepting the D'var Malchus, the Rebbe is accepting signatures, accepting the Rebbe as Melech HaMashiach, all of these things. So they decided, you know what, we're going to build a Beis HaMikdash, and the Rebbe is going to need gold and jewelry and all these things. So let's be like the women of old, where they gave their jewelry for the building of the Mishkan. and they took their jewelry, their most expensive jewelry, they put it in a nice, beautiful box, and they sent it into the Rebbe. And the next Shabbos, Parshas Truma, so Mishpatim, the Rebbe says, we still have not yet gotten the Hirah to build the Beis HaMikdash. Parshas Truma, the Rebbe says that now we have the this idea of a Asl Mikdash that we read, the Asl Mikdash Roshachanta B'Seicham. The Rebbe says not only is it B'Seichel Echad Ve'echad and all the beautiful explanations, but also there's the very simple explanation of a Asl Mikdash that we have an obligation to build a Beis HaMikdash. The Rebbe says that now it's something that every single Jew has an obligation, that this is what we have to build a Beis HaMikdash. And again, the whole story is that those same ladies that after they heard this Farbrengen, they were back in I think Montreal, I believe, and they got a bunch of women to they told the women what they did, and then they got a bunch of women to donate their jewelry, and they sent it another nice beautiful box. They never got a response, but then after Gimmel Tammuz, they went to the library where there was a display of things that were gifted to the Rebbe, and they went and they didn't find their boxes of jewelry. So they asked the librarian if there are any other gifts, that maybe their gift is in there. So the librarian took them downstairs to the library where it's not displayed, and the librarian said, these are all the gifts. So they walked around, they're trying to find their boxes. They couldn't find their boxes. Anyways, I don't exactly know when they opened the Rebbe's room, but at some point they opened the Rebbe's room for people to walk in to be able to see. And when they walk into the Rebbe's room, they see on the bookshelf. You could still go now. You can, anytime you go into the Rebbe's room. I don't anymore. But on the left side, you're facing the desk of the Rebbe. You're facing the Rebbe's desk. On the right side, they built an Iron Kodesh, I believe. On the left side, there's a bookshelf. On the top of the bookshelf, there are two boxes. And those two boxes, the ladies that sent it in recognized that those are their two boxes, and the Rebbe put it away in because it's the Rebbe's personal thing as Melech HaMashiach. It's his personal belongings that he's setting aside for when the Rebbe builds the Beis HaMikdash, and that's generally my story. Mitzvah Hashem, when we have Simcha back on, I'll go in a little more detail if there are questions that come up. But the reason why I'm telling you my story is because it's just something that people need to realize, that these things are not like one-offs. The Rebbe didn't just say it once, like, and if I bring in this crazy statement, this is something that there was a shift in the way the Rebbe spoke, but not only in the way the Rebbe spoke, but in the way people started understanding the Rebbe. The way people understood it. Even Litvishers that don't listen and learn every Sicha, but they were listening to what was going on, and even them came to the same conclusion that a lot of Chassidim at the same time came to the conclusion that the Rebbe is saying that he's Mashiach, and the Rebbe is saying that Mashiach is here, and all these things, and they thought, and their reaction to that is, oh my gosh, they're crazy. Our reaction should be, oh my gosh, this is amazing. And it's something that I think people need to realize, that you have to take everything in a full package. And when you realize that it's there's so much going on, there's so many things that are working together, it's just, you can't ignore it. You can't ignore what's going on. You can't ignore what the Rebbe said. You can't ignore what the Rebbe did. You can't ignore what Chassidim reacted to. You can't ignore everything that was going on. And not only that, even if you want to say, okay, whatever happened in the nuns, in the early nuns, that was, you put it aside in the thing, but you can't tell me that the world is the same as it was in Tafshin Mems. The world is completely different. There's literally the only thing that is the same between the way the world the behavior of the people in the world is now to the behavior that it was in Tafshin Mems and the Lameds and all the early years before 1991. The only difference is, the only thing that is the same is ourselves. People that haven't yet woken up to the realization that the Geulah is in the world. People that have not yet woken up to the realization that Mashiach is here. They haven't woken up to the realization that we are really, really in a different place. Not only physically, but also spiritually. Well, It's actually the other way around. Not only spiritually, because we don't know what's going on in the spiritual worlds, but also physically. The world is physically different. Internet, everything, positive and negative things. Even the negative things are not the same negativity that was in pre-1990s. It's not the same negativity. The anti-Semitism is not the same. The hatred is not the same. And if negatively it's not the same, how much more so, infinitely more, is the positivity. The positivity that exists nowadays is world of a difference. It's completely not the same. It's so much more godly. It's so much more love. There's so much more ahava. There's so much more achdos. When there is unity, the unity is infinitely stronger than it used to be. Everything positive, everything is amazing. If you stop for a moment and just look at the positive things, positive developments that happen in the world that are not necessarily connected to Torah, it's like you can't come to the conclusion that we're still deep in Galus. You can't come to that conclusion. If you come to the conclusion, it means that your eyes are closed, your eyes are shut, and it's just it's something that needs to be said and needs to be heard and needs to be internalized. We have to recognize that we are in a different world. I'm going to finish this off with it's a positive thing that I want to convey it in a positive way, but it's coming from a negative place, from a negative, something negative happened, and I'm trying to bring some positivity into that. So there's a story, I believe it was last week or 2 weeks ago. There was sadly a Lubavitcher Bacher that took his life. And there's a whole story around it. I'm not going to get into it because I think it's just irrelevant. What is relevant is the fact that there was bullying. I think that's the only relevance that needs to be said. And it, in a good way, it sparked a conversation that needs to be had. A conversation about how to interact with our youth. And there is a lot of truth to the fact that our youth today are very, very different, and we have to treat them and behave in a very, very different way than we used to treat and behave towards our children and our teenagers specifically. Even young adults, everyone, you have to treat them differently. You have to work differently. Now let me explain. There was a few articles that were written, and I think obviously they were very well intentioned, but I think it's missing the point. Okay, so let's talk about what those articles are written. The articles are saying essentially that, and this is very true. This is very true, and it's true regardless of whatever I'm going to say after it. And that's not what I'm disagreeing. I'm just saying that, whatever. I'll get to that in a second. The articles are saying that we teenagers, this is obvious, are right now more vulnerable. They are more emotional, and they're more sensitive. And because of those things, the way you have to bring Yiddishkeit to them, the way you have to interact with them is also has to be with more sensitivity, with more emotion, with more understanding. And what they're saying is that you have to have a lot less gvura and a lot more chesed, a lot more ahava. And if people are struggling, the way you react and the way you work with them when they're struggling is also in a very positive and very loving way, in a very kind way. And that's very true. And that's true regardless of what situation we are, regardless of whether someone took their life or not. That is true. That is true the way you interact with anybody, even if someone with a thick skin, someone that is, very strong, who has his life put together and all these things, you still have to treat them with love and care. And the way to bring someone, and this is something that the Rebbe was very strong in, the way to bring someone close to Yiddishkeit is through love, is by incorporating them, is by bringing them in to what's going on, and not by shunning them and not by pushing them away. That's obvious. Clearly for some people it's not, but That should be obvious. What I think is missing the point, and what I want to address, and hopefully I'm trying to bring it in a positive way. Hopefully it'll come out in a positive way. But what I want to say is that I feel very strongly, and I think that anybody that was born right now, it's sadly however many years after Tafshin and Dalet, Gimmel Tammuz, Tafshin and Dalet, and I am a very strong belief that anybody that was born after 1991 is born of a different, is cut from a different cloth, is born into a world of Geulah, is born into the generation of Geulah. The Rebbe says that the seventh generation, Dar Shvi, is Dar Achen Shel Galus and Dar Rishon Shel Geulah. I feel very strongly that anybody that was born in Tafshin and after Tafshin Nun Aleph, from Tafshin Nun Aleph until now and on, is already born in the Dar Rishon of Geulah. They are born into and because they are born into such a generation, they have a certain sensitivity towards the redemption, and for them, Gullus doesn't work. They just don't identify with Gullus. They don't identify with exile. They don't identify with struggle. They don't identify with hardships, and that's why for a lot of Bachrim and even a lot of teenagers, a lot of young people, if you realize it's all the young people, they are all sensitive. They have a lot of pain when they experience exile, because they're not supposed to experience exile. They are not born for exile. They have an aversion to exile. Their body doesn't work. It doesn't. The viruses and all these things. They fight. Their body fights off this virus. Their body is fighting off Golus, exile. And as long as mechanchim, as educators and parents and teachers and rabbanim and mashpiyim and all these things, as long as we don't give our children the truth, as long as we're not telling them about this reality that we're living in redemption, we're living in the middle of the Geulah unfolding in front of our eyes. Mashiach is in the world. Yes, he's concealed and all of those things, but there is still an existence. There's still a person that has the mission of Mashiach. As long as that is not conveyed to the people, as long as that is not conveyed to these people that are born in this time, as chassidish as they're going to be, they're going to feel a certain feeling of like, I'm missing something. We're missing something. There's a piece that we're missing. And this doesn't only apply to the frum world. This doesn't only apply to the Lubavitchers. It applies to the Frei, to the people, to the and even the Goyim, to the demonstrators, to the teenagers, to the college students. Why do you think I was having a conversation with a person who's not 100% frum yet, and he was asking me about his daughter who's a pro-Palestinian, Rahman al-Islam, and he was asking me like, what am I supposed to do? Like, how do I like? What do you say? I was giving a shir on Mashiach, and I was saying how amazing the world is, and the world is transforming and all those things. And he asked me a very real question. He asked me a question like, okay, you're saying all these beautiful things. You're saying Mashiach is here. You're saying the Geulah is here. Beautiful, amazing. Good for you. Good job. But I have this experience with my daughter, and it's very hard. It's a big struggle for me, because like I love her, but I also love Eretz Yisrael. I love the Yidden, and she's of the opinion that the Yidden are wrong, the Eretz Yisrael is wrong, and pro-Palestinian, and we have to be this and then the other. And I said, like, yeah, you're right. But why? Why do you think she's like that? Because she was born in a world that is supposed to be Geulah, supposed to be only redemption. There's not supposed to be any Golus. She has an aversion to war. Such a disdain for war. There's supposed to be no wars. If you look at in the Rambam, there's supposed to be no wars. Why is it supposed to be no wars? Because Hashem, everybody's going to be filled with the knowledge of Hashem, and there's going to be no reason to fight each other. There's going to be such love. Everybody's intrinsic godliness is going to be revealed, and we're all going to have there's going to be no wars, and we are going to have a feeling of love and care for every single person. Specifically, yeah, but whatever. What do you think? If you're not giving if you're not giving them the language of Geulah as it's supposed to be, and as it's written in Torah, and the way it is, Al Yidei Mashiach Tzidkenu, then they're going to find it somewhere else. And they're going to find it, sadly, not from a holy place. They're going to find it from the negative, from the klippa, from the opposite. Because the world is Geulah. The world is redemption. We live in a redemption world. It's a little hard to see, but that's because it has to come from us. We have to recognize it. We have to be open to it. We have to open our hearts to the redemption. We have to. The Rebbe says this, and I'm just realizing this now, that when the Rebbe says to Rav Mordechai Eliyahu, when he came to visit the Rebbe in Tafshin and Beis, he came to him and they're sitting in front of each other and they're talking, having a nice discussion. It's actually a beautiful video to watch of two. I wouldn't put them in the same. I wouldn't put them in as equal, but two very, 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 very high neshames. One of them is obviously higher, but they're sitting and they're discussing, and it's just beautiful to watch. Anyways, at one point, the Rebbe says that Mashiach is here. He's at the door. And we just have to let him in. We just have to open the door and let him in. And that's Geulah. That's Mashiach. Geulah is taking the Aleph, right? This is the Rebbe also says this in Tafshin and Aleph, that what's the difference between Geulah and Geulah? What's the difference between redemption and exile? Is taking the Aleph, taking God, Alufay Shel Olam, and bringing him into exile. That in our world right now, we're infusing godliness. We are revealing the Aleph in Geulah. That's the whole redemption world. The whole redemption world is when we usher it in, we bring it in. And the only way to bring it in is if it's there. If it's not there, then you can't bring it in. And the Rebbe is telling us that it's here. It's right in front of you. And not only right, you're surrounded by it. You just have to bring it into yourself. You have to let it seep into you. A very, very example just came to my head. You're in a swimming pool. You're surrounded by water. It's possible that you could still be dry if you wear a wetsuit or something like that. But a better example is the story of I forgot who it was. Chassid. He was traveling, and he was walking, and he was very cold. And as he's walking by the side of the road, a wagon pulls up next to him and says, "You want to ride?" So he says, "Sure." The guy that's offered him the ride, he said, "I don't have any seats on top, but I have. You could sit in the back." So he goes in the back, and he's sitting, and there's a bunch of barrels. And he's trying. It's very cold, and he's obviously, and now that he's riding, there's also wind. Basically trying to find a comfortable position to warm himself, and it's not working. Anyways, he goes over to the driver, and he asks the driver, like, "What do you have in the barrels?" He said, "I have mashka, I have l'chaim, alcohol." So he says, "Is it possible? Is it okay if I take some?" And the driver says, "Sure, you could take." So he takes a cup, he drinks it, and if anybody has been in the cold and had alcohol, it warms you up. And when he got to his destination, he was, later he was recounting this story, and he was saying, and the lesson that he took from the story is that you can be surrounded by mashka, you can be and you're not getting warmed up. What you have to do is you have to internalize it in order to get warmed up. And it's the exact same thing over here, I believe. That you have these children, these young people, and myself included, it's funny because I'm talking about young people. I'm also young. I'm included in this. And you have young people that are surrounded by redemption, and they feel redemption. That's their nature. Their nature is redemption, is all of the things that you learn in the holy books. All of those things. That's who they are, and that's what they identify with. And if we don't give them, if we don't give them the cup of mashka to internalize it, to take it inside of them, if we don't give them the direction, if we don't show them, hey, by the way, this whole thing that you have, this need to be kind to each other, this need to be in a world of redemption, this need to have disdain for war, all these things will just direct you to the Rebbe, to Mashiach, and it'll sort itself out. I'm 100, like this is my belief. This is my strong belief. After this person asked me the question, it was like, for me, it came into my mind, and it shifted the way I feel and the way I think and the way and this is why also I want to come on and say this. I generally don't like doing this without simcha, but I felt that I needed to do this. I needed to say this because it's so important. So important to understand that because the world is different, the people that were born into this new world need to have the words, need to have the understanding, the feeling that, yes, this is what I need to do. This is my mission. My mission is to greet Mashiach. My mission is to connect myself with the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach. That's why I'm here. And that's what I need to be doing. I need to be doing that because that's the thing. If someone has the need to spill blood, there's this famous thing in halacha that there are certain people that certain days of the week you're more prone to certain tendencies. So there's a day, I think Wednesday is the tendency to spill blood. I'm probably getting this very wrong, but the idea is that if you have a tendency to spill blood, you should become a sheikhet or a male. You should go into the profession of either becoming a ritual slaughterer or a male to give to circumcise Jewish babies. To be a male, to be a Jewish male. Yeah. Why? Because you have this tendency, you have this inclination, you have this nature. Your nature is to spill blood. So instead of chas v'shalom doing something that is opposite of Torah, that is doing something that is the opposite of holiness, you're going to take that and channel that into holiness. You're going to take that and channel that into what you're supposed to be doing. Your mission in this world, I guess, because you have this nature, your mission in this world is to be a sheikh or a male, is to be someone who spills blood in a holy way, ritually. And I think it's the exact same thing over here, that we are pashut. We need to give our students, we need to give our children, we need to give ourselves, talking for myself, the feeling that this is it. We are in the redemption. And I need to connect myself with the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach. I need to connect myself with the Rebbe. I need to connect my family. I need to tell people about it. And we all have to collectively, together, drink that cup, internalize it, become warm internally, because it's there. And like I said a few episodes ago, that regardless, God, we're not giving Hashem the excuse of that he has to wait until we all get to there. Chas v'shalom, we shouldn't need to wait. But as long as we're here right now, even if chas v'shalom we're another moment, chas v'shalom, I'm not going to. We shouldn't be another moment in Geulah. We shouldn't be another moment without the complete, full revelation of the Rebbe as Melech HaMashiach. We shouldn't be another moment without the Beis HaMikdash. And that's it. That's it. We shouldn't need to have this. We shouldn't need to have a back and forth about what's going on, what's really the problem. We shouldn't need to have a whole conversation back and forth about what's the solutions, because we're not going to be another moment. It's not going to be another moment. We're not going to give Hashem that. We're going to tell Hashem, Hayoim, today. We don't give Hashem any conditions, unconditions. Hashem has the responsibility and the obligation. Hashem in himself. There's a famous thing of that what Hashem tells the Jews, Hashem fulfills himself. So Hashem tells us that there's a halacha that we have to pay the workers on time, and if you don't pay the workers on time, it's a big problem, and there's things that happen. We have to tell Hashem, the time has come. The time is way past to give us the reward and the payment for our work throughout Gullus, our work throughout exile, and to be united together with the Rebbe Melech HaMashiach in full glory in Eretz Yisrael, the complete expansion of Eretz Yisrael and the expansion of 770 and the building of the Rebbe's palace, all together in Eretz Yisrael, in Yerushalayim, with the full building of the Beis HaMikdash. May it happen right now. Yechia Adonenu Merinu v'Rabbeinu Melech HaMashiach La'olam Va'ad.
ועד כדי כך המדבר גולהוב מהדר עם זול מחי sein, יחי המלך.
ay, 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 ay.